Well, now that I've got everything apart, or almost everything apart, it occurs to me to make a recording of this since I couldn't find one on the YouTubes. I'll tell you, getting this plastic cover off was one of the most frustrating things on this project. You've got blind screws up in here, fairly sharp little Phillips heads, and they're up in a channel that you can't see. You've got to go by feel. I was taking my phone and looking with my camera up inside, which is an alternative to using a mirror. And the advantage there is that you can snap a picture and then look at the picture and blow it up and get a better idea of what you've got going on. The third screw that's in there is one of these Torx. And then getting these three clips loosened up and popped off. If you look up in here, here's a ramped hook here, here, and here. Those hooks engage these wire clips. To get them off, you have to get something up underneath of them and bend them back out of the way as you pull the corner loose. And doing that in the confined spaces of this area here, it's tricky. You have to turn the wheel so that this guy is kind of in a more upward position, get underneath the back with a screwdriver, and you can push forward on this corner and you'll feel this wire clip bumping into your screwdriver, and you need to get underneath of it, ratchet it up, leverage it up, and then pull the corner out. I ended up using this cold chisel, and it's just a little too long and not quite sharp enough. I could have gone and ground that, but what the heck. I managed to do it. It was a pain. You'll notice that I didn't remove the bottom half of the shroud that covers the steering column, and it didn't really get in my way. It actually came in handy at times. This is what they call the clockwork. It sprung apart when I pulled the steering wheel off. Thankfully, this is the part that I was replacing. I had one wire still plugged in when I pulled the steering wheel off, and when it popped off, it ripped that all apart. What I need to do right now is get this little pedal adjuster, figure out which little plastic clips to push to get it off. Here's the switch, and don't be fooled by the little clips on the side. Those are to take the top of the button off. All you need to do is get this little clip here pushed that way, and this guy is just a very light little plastic clip, so it needs to be gently raised, and I've already bent it a little bit, and that was enough. So the other thing was this guy, your turn signal, and it just this little clip right here, you depress that and it slides straight up out of the system very smoothly, very easy. Okay, this is my new unit. I put the adjuster button, it just slid right in there and clicked on that little guy right there and is all good. And now we want to pull these wires out. Notice this one came with two of the three screws that hold this assembly on. And these guys, there are plugs in the back. This is to your pedal control switch, and then these two plugs, and here's the third plug It's very short, and it'll be the last thing that I plug in as I rotate this up onto the steering column itself. Everything very obvious, only goes one way, clearly goes one way, very positive click, so you know you've got a connection. The only issue, if you want to call it an issue, I got that guy plugged in fine, but getting this main unit on this plug right back here, see the wires that go back there? That will want to try and get in front of this little mounting post, and you have to work it around behind that as you adjust this. Now all you do is click this guy down into place. A little bit of resistance from wires up here, but just enough to give you a little pause to say, am I doing this right? It is. There, it clicked. So now I have one screw right here and two screws up on the top. I pulled the screws out that were already in it. Probably in retrospect would have been better to leave those screws just stuck in the black plastic. Okay, she's all together. All of the screws are tight. The 3 screws up here, they are Torx 20. Next we install the steering wheel and the airbag. We're going to need to route those wires through that window and these wires through that window into where that plastic plug is. Notice in the splines on the top of the steering there's a wide spot, and that's your index mark. There's also a dot at the very front where the wide spot is. I put a dab of Loctite on the main bolt, torqued it down really tight. So I went ahead and just snapped that back in, double checked all of my existing connections. The plugs for the airbags are color coded. Of course, I've made sure that I'm really well grounded. I don't want to blow the airbag up in my face. That could be really bad, especially while it's off like this, because this big chunk of steel then becomes a projectile since it's not attached to anything, and that would be really, really bad. So these 2 wires, black and yellow, go to the black and yellow. They only fit one way, and we'll plug those in, snap this onto there, and then put the cowling back on. As anticipated, this snapped on just a breeze. Super simple. Went straight on. I kind of went towards the bottom first and then the top, but I don't know that it made any difference at all. So now all we have to do is the cowling. That's just a matter of fidgeting it around. Got her all back together. Everything appears to be good.